Hello, a very good afternoon and welcome to our season finale of We Are Careers. A very warm welcome if you're joining us for the first time. And we are ending this series with some really big questions. We're going to be talking about how far we've come as a sector in making kind of career development more equitable and what more work there may be to do to ensure that our sector and our profession is as inclusive as possible. That's what we're going to be tackling with today's guests, who we're going to introduce shortly. Now, if you're joining us for the first time, welcome. This is the We Are Careers show. This is your fortnightly snippet of CPD for careers professionals across the career sphere, not just here in the UK, but worldwide. And of course, any other professionals from other industries that are interested in the world of career development. For those who've not come across me before, my name is Chris Webb. I'm a higher education careers professional and RCDP with the Career Development Institute. And I'm joined, as always, by my fantastic co-host, meet Sabiha. So Sabiha, are you having a nice middle of the week and a good end to season 8?
Do you know what? It's a bittersweet moment for me, I have to say. Sort of kind of like relief that, oh my God, can everybody believe? Hello, welcome viewers. It's good to see you here. Pop into the chat. Let us know what part of the world, should I say now, are you watching from? And what is it about today's topic that you're interested in learning about? And you can probably see some familiar faces who I'm going to be introducing to you all very shortly. But if you've got questions for them, use the chat box feature, pop them into the chat so that we can put them to our guests today, because we've got two really amazing guests that are going to help us sort of at least crack this nut of topic that we're going to be exploring today. And if you haven't already followed and liked us, please do. And please do subscribe, because the more subscribers we have, the more followers we have, and the more engagement that we get, the bigger and better and bolder guests we can get for you. So whatever platform you're currently watching us on, hit that like and subscribe button. We'll really appreciate your support. Now, for those of you that don't know me, I'm known as Meet Sabiha, and I work internationally. I help international job hunters get unstuck and get back into career flow without the stress. And I also happen to work with international career coaches, where I deliver my I Am Thriving Career Coaching program, where I teach international career coaches to help their clients create even more powerful transformation within the coaching sessions without wasting time on resources and doing work that actually helps their clients get unstuck. Now, today's topic is going to be around equity within the career force, and what will it take to make the career sector more inclusive? Now, before I head on over to that theme, as always, if you're a familiar viewer, you will have known that there's a part of the section that we like to do first, which is known as our careers cheers. And it's a time for us to celebrate, yes, you, the viewers, and the wider community, all the amazing thing that is happening in our career sector right now. So, Chris, who are we celebrating this morning, or this afternoon, should I say?
Thanks, Sabiha. Yeah, we've got again a really jam-packed kind of careers cheers section. So it's been really nice sort of over the series. We've had lots of people send stuff to us, but also there's some really good ones this week that we can kind of generally call out that we've seen online. So the first careers cheers is, no surprise to anyone who watches the show regularly. It's a bit of a plug for our Careers Impact hashtag. So this is the hashtag that the CDI has been promoting to really try and make sure that we're kind of sharing those good news stories from careers professionals about the kind of work they've done supporting clients or working with organizations and other stakeholders, and really kind of demonstrating, I guess, the value of career development work. So if you have got some good stories, some good Careers Impact tales to share, do make sure that you kind of tag those on your social media platform of choice. Make sure you tag the CDI and use the Careers Impact hashtag. There was a particularly good one over the last week from Chris Target. So if you follow him on LinkedIn, there's an excellent one in there about the value of kind of gently challenging clients. So do check that one out. So again, just as a reminder, that's the Careers Impact hashtag. And of course, we'd be remiss not to mention the wonderful So Much More Than Talking About Jobs hashtag, which of course we talked about on the show a few weeks ago with Bella and with Catherine. So again, just thinking about, if you're a careers professional, you're watching this, you're thinking, I've got some brilliant stories, but I don't really share them. Consider doing that maybe. Consider sharing the value that you're bringing and give us a chance to celebrate that as well. So that's our first careers cheers for today. Our second one is around CDI elections. So there may be a little bit of duplication here with the news, so I'm going to go through this kind of quite quickly. But it's really just to say a massive congratulations to our recently elected CDI colleagues. So we have Nikki Moore as Honorary Secretary, We have the Ethics and Professional Standards Committee members. So we have Louisa Moreno, Bella Doswell, Bethel Clark, and Larry Tett representing the different regions of the UK. And then we also have Gina Visram, who very, very recently has just been elected as a board member or director. So again, just a massive congratulations to all of those colleagues who've recently been elected to the CDI board and to other positions. You are fantastic additions, and we really look forward to seeing the work you do moving forward. And then finally, because I'm running out of breath, have our third Careers Cheers, which is really just to say a big shout out to all of the nominees who've been shortlisted for this year's UK Career Development Awards. If you follow LinkedIn particularly, you'll see some of the kind of nominees who've been shortlisted sharing the fact that they're in the shortlists on LinkedIn. So we won't kind of give a full list of everybody because that would be far too much to cover, but do check that out. Do check out the CDI webpage for the UK Career Development Awards, which is where obviously the shortlists will be shared before the event as well. So check that out. And again, a massive congratulations to everyone who's been nominated and shortlisted for all of the awards so far.
Oh, Chris, that was a whole lot of names and a whole lot of lists. You take a breather, I'll take over for now. So speaking of which, so what are we exploring today? So today we're going to be talking about how far we've come making the careers profession more equitable and what will it take to make the career sector more inclusive. If you're watching right now and you've got an opinion about this, we would love to hear from you. So jump on into the chat box and let us know. Share your thoughts, share your experiences. Share your insights of where you see this and where you sit on this topic. Now, because it is the last show, we couldn't leave the last show without bringing some big guns. And that's exactly what we have done today. So not only have we brought you one guest, but we brought you two guests. And I want to head on over to our very first guest, which is none other than the CEO of the CDI. And if by the way, you're watching this, perhaps you're watching for the first time and you keep thinking, what do Chris and Sabiha keep talking about this CDI? What is it? How does it look like? And how can I get involved? Will be more detailed in the news section. And in fact, there you go. Chris has put a link of how you can join the CDI as well. So David, welcome, welcome, welcome. As I mentioned, we've got the big gun, the CEO of the CDI. But there might be people that are watching today that might not know you, might not recognize your name, and might not know exactly what it is that you do at the CDI. So tell the viewers what it entails to be the CEO of the CDI, David.
Well, yeah, a fair bit. Yeah, good morning, good afternoon, sorry. Lovely to be here, thank you. Yeah, the CDI, so we're the professional body for career development. So we basically have two golden threads to everything we do, supporting our members who are practitioners, researchers, policymakers, and so on, teachers, trainers across every aspect of career development in the UK and internationally. And the second thing we do is we champion the career development profession for the benefit it brings to the individuals, the economy, and society. So my job is to kind of work with the team centrally at the CDI, but also with the amazing volunteers, associates that we work with to fulfil those two missions. To offer the best services we can to our members, from qualifications, CPD, conferences and events, resources like the Career Development Framework, and so on. But also to respond to policy consultations, to input to things like the Careers Review in Scotland, working with Wales and Northern Ireland as much as we can as well, and getting behind things like so much more than talking about jobs, and helping Bella and Catherine with that. We put them in touch with a PR consultant that we used, and that helped get some visibility offline as well as online. So a wide range of things and a busy job.
Fantastic. It definitely does sound like a busy job, David. There's a lot of things, a lot of things that you and the team are having to coordinate and manage. And that brings me on to our next guest, who is Ifza, and she happens to be the EDI associate who's going to help us debunk some of the myths and get into today's topic. So Ifza, for people that don't know you, can you sort of kind of share in a few details about what the EDI role as an associate is for you, and how's that shaping up to be since you started?
Okay, thank you for that, Sabiha. Hi everyone, my name's Ifza Shakoor and I'm the EDI associate for the CDI. So that means that I work with the CDI, with David, where we look at transforming the sector and transforming the CDI's culture to make it more inclusive, more equitable, and drive forward diversity. So in that role, I have one-to-ones with career professionals. I've organised lunchtime meetings, webinars. I share information. I try and when you're fasting, you can't even think anymore. I'm tired now, you can tell. So what I'm doing is working with David.
I feel you.
What I'm doing is working with David to put together the EDI strategy. So we've worked on it for the past year, where we've done lots of work in the run up towards it. Had 2 days of webinars on the 26th and 27th of January, which are informing the strategy going forward. And at the moment, we're currently reviewing all the suggestions that were put forward, and hopefully we'll be in a place to share that quite soon once it's undergone review.
Fantastic, thanks, Ifza. Sorry, a bit of a pause, bit of a lag on my computer there. And yeah, incredible, really, as you were saying. I think the work that's kind of gone on, perhaps some of it that people don't see behind the scenes, but this is kind of partly obviously what the show's about today, to find out a little bit more about that. And obviously one of the kind of important things that it's worth mentioning is that you have, of course, been a guest on the show before. We had you kind of along in the last series. And at that point, you were kind of starting to tell us a little bit about some of the stuff that was going on. So the EDI big conversation workshops that you mentioned, I attended those. They were absolutely fantastic. Obviously, your PhD research itself and a number of the other kind of things you're involved in. Can you tell us a little bit more about sort of what's been going on with those projects? And I guess particularly any sort of key trends that have sort of come out of those conversations that maybe give us an idea about where we're going at the moment in terms of kind of inclusivity and equitable, I guess, kind of work within the CDI, and maybe where there's more work to go moving forward.
Absolutely. So thank you. So one of the key issues that we've noticed is there's a lack of demographic data. So the CDI do have some data. What we want to do is make the EDI strategy really transparent, so people know what it's for, what their data will be used for, and that's to plug those gaps and support the practitioners within the CDI and wider in terms of getting more diverse talent into the sector, supporting those in the sector. And my PhD is looking at equity, diversity and inclusion in the career development sector, and ethnically diversifying the pipeline. So I'm only looking at ethnicity in terms of my PhD. However, in terms of my role with the CDI, I'm looking at all aspects of diversity. So David and I narrowed it down to 7 different intersections of diversity in the big conversation workshops. We've also got, as a baseline, we've had the EDI. We've had some EDI questions in the big listen survey that came out in November and December, and that will be used each year to build on the work that we're doing, so we know where we're going, we're keeping up with, and we're listening to the professionals in the sector, and then we're responding to them accordingly. So it's just a whole drive forward to make everything more inclusive, more equitable, and drive forward that transformative change. And both of them go hand in hand, as I've said before, my PhD with the work that I'm doing in the sector. They complement each other.
And for those who sort of maybe missed out on things like the big conversation workshops, because I mean, they really were quite unique. And I know we've kind of got people watching this now, I can sort of see in the comments who I think were definitely there and some who maybe weren't there. But these were quite a different style, I guess, of workshop compared to, what's typically offered in kind of training and events, in the sense that they were very discursive, not recorded, very open in the sense of people being able to kind of share their lived experiences. Tell us a little bit more, I guess, around what you found from those experiences of moderating and kind of running those workshops.
So they came out of my PhD. I was looking at methodologies, and my PhD is decolonial. It's got that decolonial lens to it. And I was looking at Donna Merton's work, which is quite transformative. And in it, she says that everyone has a voice, but not everyone has that platform. So we looked at platforms, David and I, we worked out how we wanted it to go and what our vision was. And it took a lot of work behind the scenes. Although you only saw the 2 days behind the scenes, there was so much back and forth where we were planning it out and planning every minute and asking people to come along and share their lived experience. Recently, I shared a post on LinkedIn about storytelling, and I feel like that's quite important within this sector. A lot of it's about stories and making things come to life, and that's what we wanted to do. So we opened up by getting people with lived experience of, let's say, ethnic diversity or religious diversity or gender, as you were one of our keynote speakers. So with this, we got people to begin thinking about what it's like to be in that person's shoes. What is it like to have that experience? And we've made it open, kept it a safe platform by not recording anything. And it was quite participatory in the fact that we had a Padlet, and participants could record what they wanted to say, what the barriers were, what they'd like the CDI to do into the Padlet directly. And there's a lot of discussion and feedback where people sharing what their issues were, what their experience was, and suggestions about what to do, what resources to look at. So what we've been doing since then is looking at the Padlets, looking at the themes, and the themes that came out were not pigeonholing people. That was one of the biggest ones. Not stereotyping, keeping an open mind. In terms of support, I'll just quickly pull it up. Being supported in their career, because often people don't know what they want to do next, want to enter the sector. So what's next? So that's something that we're working on.
It speaks, I guess, doesn't it, to those kind of wider issues, you know, that have been raised by careers professionals, both in kind of the comments on these shows and more generally around, as you were saying, those kind of pathways through the career development sector, and then they're not always being that clear, you know, about where people go, and there's a lot of connectivity, I guess, there, you know, with the work you're doing.
Absolutely. Yeah, and then to feature diversity and EDI not as an add-on, but embedded within the CDI. So whatever we do, there's always an aspect of EDI and diversity. Like one of the examples that I can give is in Career Matters, we're hoping to, well, we have been actually since last year, we have been including a diversity feature in every single issue. And that's something that hopefully will continue and will be ongoing. We've got Sarfraz Ahmed, who's shared his journey as one of the first ethnically diverse practitioners in the Midlands in April's issue. We want to create a safe space for dialogue. We want to hand over the platform to the practitioners that make up this community. So rather than us leading everything, rather than David or I or somebody else that's got that platform, give that platform, make it open, and say to people, if you've got something you want to talk about, if you've got lived experience, come along, share that information, and let people know what's on your mind and how you can be supported and what's required to be supported. So we're changing the way that we're looking at things, and it's not where Dave and I are dictating this is how it should be done. We're listening. So those workshops were all about us listening to what should be done and then taking it forward from there. Yeah.
So go on, Ifza. I'm just going to sort of, as you sort of kind of just check your notes, you know, something that's resonating with me, and perhaps it's resonating with you too, viewers, and so please do, again, use the chat box feature, jump on into the conversation, let us know your thoughts and feelings, because remember, this is what we're talking about, aren't we? It's about an organization who you are a member of, and perhaps maybe you're on the fence at the moment. Maybe, you know, you're hearing about the CDI for the first time and you're thinking about joining, or maybe you had never heard of that there was this membership organization that you could be a part of, in a community that you could join. What's coming through loud and clear for me, Ifza, and David, I'll come to you in a second after I've sort of kind of picked up on some of the comments, is that it's very much you want to hear from everybody. So perhaps maybe you are, because sometimes, I mean, I know in the past I have felt a little bit isolated doing the kind of work that I've done, and particularly working as a private practitioner, an independent private practitioner, it can become a bit sort of isolating. So to know that you're part of, you know, and that was, you know, one of the motivations, not the only motivation, to join the CDI many, many years ago. So I'm able to surround myself by like-minded people in a community of other sort of kind of driven, ambitious career professionals. And so the fact that what you're saying is that your work is really driving this kind of concept of engagement and equity and giving people a space to talk. And speaking of giving people a space to talk, let's head on over and see what we've got in the comments and see what the viewers have to say today. So we're getting lots of, we've got somebody here from Facebook saying it's raining in Worcestershire. It's raining here in Lancashire as well, as always. A big congratulations. I don't know if it's the same Facebook user, but another Facebook user saying congratulations to all the nominations and the new appointments at the CDI. Here, I agree. And then we've got our regular viewers, Debbie Dimmock. Hello, Debbie. Oh my God, yes. And by the way, I don't know, Chris hasn't mentioned yet, but he's going to be speaking very soon. So if you currently are at the CDI student conference, you know, she's saying it's looking good. Chris is going to be speaking later this afternoon as well. So you're in for a treat, Debbie. You're getting 2 doses of Chris today. We've got a Facebook user. We love all that you do, Ifza. So there you go. You've got a fan right there. And then we've got Lucy here saying, really happy to hear from David and Ifza today. So speaking of David, what else would you sort of kind of add to the work that's been done already, and what's going to be happening when it comes to the equality, diversity and inclusion strategy?
Well, I think Ifza's covered a lot. The point you made, Sabiha, actually, that it's looking at everything we do through different lenses. So we historically have looked at it through a practitioner lens, and as you say, we're working with a private practitioner group, making sure there's more support for private practitioners, and there's some things that will be coming out fairly soon on that from that group. We're starting some conversations with people working in independent schools, because they flag the same issue, that actually they feel a little isolated. They don't have a community, and we're really, really keen that we represent the whole profession. And that plays into the EDI space as well. It ties all the way through our strategy. So from our vision about enabling every individual to realise their career goals, our values about being inclusive, the fourth pillar of our strategy being about working for a fair future and making sure there's strong inclusivity there. So it features everything we do. And as Ifza said, it was all about, really, those 2 days of workshops were all about making a very, very conscious decision that it's not right for Ifza and I, even through having some conversations, to come up with something. What we need to do is give people the voice to tell us what the barriers are and what they think the solutions are. And then our job is to, we're working together on the strategy at the moment, is, okay, so what do we believe the CDI can do, and what do we think the priorities are to have the maximum impact? And what I liked about the workshops is you had some amazing personal stories in those opening sessions. So Chris, thank you for doing yours, and his and others were really, really valuable. So it was great to get those personal stories out. So it really gives you a sense of it, the reality for different people, but also just the range of solutions. So they're very macro solutions. So the kind of top level one that came out fairly consistently was, we just need to raise the profile of the profession overall, and that will help with greater diversity, down to very specific issues that, as someone without that lived experience, you would never have even considered. You wouldn't know that's something to address. So it won't have captured everything, but there were a fantastic input that enabled us to develop a more balanced strategy going forward. So I was really, 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 really pleased with it.
Thank you for sharing that, David. And what's resonating for me there, David, what you're saying is that by keeping an open mind and being curious, and this is something that Chris and I have covered in some shape or form, and I think in pretty much in every show that we've done to date, being a curious career professional gives you a space to be able to explore and look at ways of how you can sort of be more inclusive and be more open, and sort of kind of encourage sort of open, transparent dialogue, so that so that we can improve ourselves as individual professionals, but also as a community as well. And so that kind of brings me on to, and by the way, okay, make sure that you stay tuned to the end, to the right till the end, because I know David's going to be revealing some exclusive news for us about some latest updates that are taking place behind the scenes in the CDI. So make sure you stay tuned right till the end. But Ifza, I'm going to come to you now. So based on your work and in this space to date, what do you think it will take to make the career development sector more inclusive?
I think allyship and advocacy. So even if you haven't got that lived experience, even if, for example, you're not from an ethnic minority background, you can still support other people by being an ally, by being an advocate. If you see something that's where someone's feeling a little bit isolated, or they've got a specific issue, no matter what it is, support them, be an ally, and that will remove a lot of barriers. So instead of seeing people as different groups, see yourself as a whole, as part of the profession and the professional body. And I feel like it's not the only answer, but that's part of the answer, to have an inclusive culture.
Oh, go on, Chris. I think, Chris, were you coming in or was I coming in? I was going to say, yeah, no, I will jump in then. I was just going to say 100% Ifza, I'm with you around sort of kind of advocacy and allyship. The number of times that I personally have benefited as a result of those acts of kindness and generosity of other colleagues has been transformative for me. That's just been my sort of kind of personal journey. I know that, you know, sort of kind of, I was really fortunate. I was part of the first cohort of mentoring that was first ever done. God, I think it was like, I want to say 5 years ago, maybe a bit longer, 6 years ago now. God, time is flying. And perhaps maybe, you know, that was part of an initiative that the CDI did. And to this date now, myself and my mentor, we still have sessions because we both have benefited. We now call it peer mentorship, but and once a month we meet up. And that's just something that we've benefited great. Both her and I have benefited greatly from. But, you know, let us know in the comments, you know, what kind of things are you doing to create advocacy and allyship for yourself so that you can have a fulfilling and meaningful career within our profession. And I know, Chris, as we sort of kind of wrap up, because we always run out of time on these shows, sort of what are our final thoughts? What sort of, you know, because I suspect we probably left more questions than answers for our viewers and for ourselves as well. So, Chris, as we wrap up today's show, what's your final thoughts about this?
Yeah, can I add something?
Oh, go on.
Yeah. So what you've just said, it would be nice to have a case study of you being a mentor. Now you going into that peer mentoring, and that's all we're asking for. Anything that's positive, anything that you've experienced, send it in. We'll put it together in a case study and share that knowledge widely. If you're not comfortable being identified, it can be anonymous. If you do want to be identified and want that exposure, or want to signify what you've done, let us know. Please email me. I'll put my email in the chat, and hopefully we'll make a case study or put that information out there.
I think it's a really important point about being part of the conversation. You know, I think, just to echo kind of what both you and David have said, those big conversation workshops, one of the most notable things was kind of that sort of judgment-free space to actually raise some things that were genuinely, I should say, curious questions. You know, actually, I don't know about this. How does this impact you as a practitioner with these characteristics? Tell me more, you know. And I think that sort of curiosity is really important. And as you've also said there, Ifza, kind of getting involved, you know, being involved in the conversation in some shape or form, you know, whether you feel comfortable enough to do that kind of publicly or whether you want to do that anonymously. I think that's certainly a really kind of important point to share. I guess kind of final sort of question or thought to wrap this up, just for yourself, Ifza, is what should kind of people be looking out for, I guess, over the coming months to find out more about this work and how it's kind of been taken forward?
Okay, so like we said, this work is transformative. It's not David or I. What will happen next is David is currently reviewing the strategy. We're ping-ponging between each other at the moment with suggestions and feedback to make, because we really want to get it right. Then it will go to the board after that, who will review it, give us their suggestions, and then we'll come back and make edits. Then the second or third phase of it is it will go out to the public. So what I'm asking for today is, if you want to be part of that reviewing panel, it's a one-off panel, not like a permanent board or anything, just to clarify. If you do want to be part of that panel, please do get in touch. And let us know that. And if you want to look at the strategy first before anybody else and give us your feedback on it, we'd really appreciate that. And we want as many people as possible to come together and have a look, and after it'll go wider to stakeholders.
Fantastic. Thanks. It's a really, really useful update there. And on the subject of updates, whilst we wait for kind of any other comments to come in, we're going to pass over to you, David, for what we've kind of critically kind of titled David Morgan with some CDI updates. Very, very kind of cryptic. So we'll see where that takes us. Over to you, David.
Thank you. Thanks, Chris. Well, I guess the first thing to say is happy birthday to us. So it's the CDI's 10th anniversary, 10th birthday in April. We were set up in April 2013. For those of you who are CDI members, you will shortly be receiving your latest edition of Career Matters magazine. And there's a big chunk of that, well, not a big chunk, a chunk of that's been taken over. So alongside all the other articles about different types of professions, careers theory, and a whole host of things, we've got a series of articles covering the 10th anniversary. So there's an article from 4 of the founding directors who came from the 4 founding bodies, so ICG, NAGA, ACPI UK, and ASEG. Yes, I did have to look down and remember all 4 of those. There's an article from myself and the CDI's first chief executive, Jan Ellis. So our reflections, mainly hers, because she was here for the first 8 years of it, looking back, and then me looking at the current 2 years and present and future. Avril Hannon gives more of a historical perspective about how we got to where we are now. Claire Johnson talks about celebrating the qualification career development, which we've been the awarding body of for the last 10 years. And Anthony Barnes has an article on raiding the career development archive. So there's a whole host of things in there, which kind of nice different ways of reflecting on how the CDI came to be, how it's been since we became CDI, and looking forward. And what better way to celebrate our 10th anniversary than by launching a new website. So we don't have a specific date yet. We've got a few things still to work through, but we're aiming towards the end of April, early May. It's a completely new website, completely new member management platform behind it. It's looking amazing. We're now at the point where it's built. We're going through it and building pages. We're making sure the data's going in. We're making sure everything works correctly. So there's quite a lot of work to do to get all that in. If you think of all the pages on our current website and all the resources and so on, we're tidying it, we're cleaning up, we're rewriting it, and it's looking amazing. And we'll hear more about that through April, and looking forward to that launching.
Fantastic. Thank you, David. Yeah, whistle stop update. And I think people will be very, very keen to hear about the website, particularly those who were maybe involved in some of the kind of beta testing or consultation side of things. I know that was really useful. So fantastic. And we are rapidly approaching the end of the show. Before we move to the CDI news, I believe just a few comments to pick up and a few questions to answer, Sabiha. So let us know what's kind of being talked about in the chat.
Okay, so Ifza, you've definitely resonated with Danny Musa, because he's saying, thanks, Ifza, would love to contribute to the panel. So Danny, thank you. I know Ifza will be really pleased. And there you go. That's the email address. It's on screen right now. Take a screen grab or quickly write it down, depending how quickly you can write or type, Danny, and make a note of that, and hook up with, ping Ifza, and I'm sure she would love to hear from you. And then we've got a Facebook user who's saying, woo woo, happy birthday, CDI. I feel as if we should have sang happy birthday and had some cake, maybe not cake, because Ifza and I are fasting at the moment. And so for all our fellow sort of kind of professionals who are fasting right now, Ramadan Mubarak, and I hope it's going well. And it's great to have leadership for the next 10 and more years, David Morgan. I think someone's already rooting for you, David, to be in post for the next 10 years. So I hope you've eaten your Weetabix this morning. So thank you for that. And then I think, as we said, time for the latest news stories from the CDI. So I want to thank you both, Ifza and David, for joining us on what is our final show of this season. But do not panic, there will be more coming up. But as I head into the CDI news, I guess there's two things that sort of, in addition to all the things that we have shared so far, that David has shared and I've shared and Chris has shared. And really that's just some up and coming sort of conferences that are coming up. So there's one that's the Careers Leader Conference that is taking place on Tuesday, the 27th of June. The keynote speakers have been booked now. We've got David Andrews, OBE, Kelly Spence and Ryan Gibson. Now, there's still time. If you are interested in doing a seminar or a workshop, head on over to the website. The theme of this year conference is Gatsby Benchmarks and Beyond, developing and evidencing impactful careers program. So if you've got something to say on that subject and you want the rest of the world to hear about it, head on over and submit a proposal. The deadline for the proposal is 10 a.m. on Monday, the 17th of April, 2023. And then finally, I'm excited about this because I will be attending. There is the Gain New Perspective on Tools and Approaches. This is a joint NISEC and CDI conference, the Next Cutting Edge webinar, which will be held on Wednesday, the 19th of April from 9:30 to 12:30 p.m. And if you are a member of NISEC and CDI, guess what? It's free to join because your membership covers the cost. So again, details about this are available on the website. And the session is about stepping back and thinking about how and why we use career tools in our practice, and where do we add the most value, and where might they find, might they be distracting, and what are sort of our go-to career tools and techniques, and how might we look at refreshing and updating and enriching our approach to support our clients in an even more powerful way. So that's it from me today with the CDI news, and that's my wrap up for this season. Chris, what have you got for us for the main headline news, the wider community?
Yes, thanks, Sabiha. Yeah, just again, 3 sort of rapid news stories to share with people, just some things that have been kind of taking place across the career sphere before we fully kind of wrap up for season 8. So the first one is a really nice article from Anne Wilson at Warwick University, Practical Steps for Finding Your Ikigai. So that the Japanese concept of, reason for kind of being or reason for getting up in the morning. Lots of careers professionals probably very familiar with it, that sort of kind of 4-circle Venn diagram type model. But this is a really nice piece that actually focuses on kind of practical questions you can ask yourself when thinking about that idea of, passion. Which things do you love? What can you get paid for? What do you have the skills to do? All those different types of things. So really, really nice piece that I thoroughly recommend checking out from Anne's blog. The second one is around education select committees. People who follow the series will not be surprised to hear me mention something about policy, but the team at Complete Careers have put together a really nice kind of summary of what happened at the final education select committee hearing into CEIAG in England. It's a really nice kind of précis, I guess, of everything that took place in the hearing and some sort of thoughts about where that might lead in terms of future policy for careers in England. So do check that one out too. And then the final one is a really nice kind of webinar that's been on YouTube this week. So I think Lucy Sattler's actually been in the comments. We've seen her kind of tuning in from Australia, which is great. I think Lucy's actually going to be joining us this year in the UK for a visit, which is brilliant. But her kind of organisation, Study Work Grow, had a fantastic webinar earlier in the week all about their career clusters resource, which you might remember us talking about on a previous episode of We Are Careers a little bit earlier in this season. And it's all about supporting multi-potentialite students. So individuals who are kind of maybe good at lots of different things and interested in lots of different things. And it's about using their career clusters resource to kind of have those conversations with people that might be interested and be good at lots of things, but not sure where that might take them. So really worth watching, only sort of a 25-minute watch, but really interesting, particularly if you're already using the career clusters resource, as I know that many UK professionals are. So that brings us very nicely to the end of the show. All that's left to say really is, we're not necessarily going anywhere. For the rest of the year, we will be back. We will be around. This is the end of season 8, but do stay tuned to our social media profiles, both the CDI and myself and Sabiha's social media accounts on LinkedIn and Twitter particularly. And we'll be kind of leaking some of the proposed dates and the kind of slate of guest speakers we've got coming up for season 9, which is going to be dropping later in the year. So do keep an eye out for that. But until then, really, only thing remains to be said is a massive thank you to everyone watching at home or watching on the recording. Huge thank you to all of our guests from this series and to David and Ifza for all their contributions today. And of course, a massive thank you from both of us, from Sabiha and I, for anyone who's a regular We Are Careers viewer. Hope you all have a brilliant rest of the week, and we will see you for season 9. Take care.